to go abroad, and we required visas for that specific country.
Did you ever go across? Did you go overseas with Samantha Taylor?
I never went overseas with Ms.
Did you
Taylor.
ever have to arrange a visa for her?
I cannot recall that I had to arrange a visa for Ms. Taylor.
If I put to you that you received an email from the accused sending you a copy of Samantha Taylor's passport, and that happened on the 12th of September 2012, would that be strange?
I can honestly not recall that email that I received.
You see, I don't want to read out your email address, so I'd rather send you a document just to check if you can identify your email address, and I will just indicate with an arrow where I would want you to look. I know you're reading everything now, but there's an arrow indicating your email address, am I right?
That's correct.
And I see you've already turned the page. You're welcome to. You see there's a scanned-in copy of a passport.
That's correct, sir.
And a message to you. You see that?
I see that there's a message
to you,
to me,
and on reading it, it's from Oz.
That is correct.
And who's Oz?
That is Mr. Pistorius' name that we sometimes used to call him.
So, can you still remember having received that email?
I must admit I cannot recall receiving this email, but I obviously did receive this email.
Now, why would you receive an email? Let me just hand it in. Milady, this will be XXX. There will be more than one, Milady. May I beg leave to hand this in as XXX1, Milady. Now, let us just read out what the accused, or in terms of what we have in front of us, what the message was. Will you read it up?
Which message, sir?
The one underneath the scanned copy of the passport.
Page 2.
Page 2 of the report.
Hi, Pierre. Here is Sam's passport. Please keep it on file. Think we're sorting shit out. Oz.
Now let's deal with sorting shit out. What is that?
If I have to read this as it is here and interpret it, I would assume it would be a love quarrel or difference of opinion that they might have had.
But then, if he writes you something like that, he must think you know what's going on. Otherwise, why would he say that?
I must admit I did not interfere in any of Mr. Pistorius or any of my other clients' personal lives, and I did not ask what he specifically referred to here in this case.
No, that, you see, you're not answering it. I'm not saying you asked. I'm not saying you interfered. I said, for somebody to write that to you, that person must think you know what's going on. Because he's saying, please keep it on file. Think we're sorting shit out. So he must think you know what's going on, otherwise he won't write that.
If I can honestly say, I did not know what was going on, and if there was something wrong, something specifically wrong, sir.
So what did you do with the passport? He now sent you this. What was the purpose of it?
I kept this passport on file for a later occasion when Miss Taylor accompanied Mr. Pistorius for a television production that was happening on the Seychelles later that year. That she accompanied him, Mr. Pistorius, to this trip.
So you arranged that?
No, I didn't arrange it. We were approached by a television production company that wanted Mr. Pistorius to be a guest on this show, and they offered a trip to the Seychelles for Mr. Pistorius and a person that he could take along with.
Mr. Van Zyl, did you arrange the tickets or anything? That's my question.
I then had to give all the information through to the television production company, and as far as I could recall, they then arranged the flight.
So what you're saying is, as a fact, the Mauritius trip happened after September.
It was
after
the
Seychelles.
It was the Seychelles
It happened
trip.
after September 2012.
As far as I can recall, I don't have the specific dates of that trip, but it was definitely after the season was finished.
Okay. Now, let's deal with something different. Remember yesterday we had this discussion about the accused being moved from the room during the Olympics?
That is correct.
And I asked you if you read anything about that, remember?
Yes, you did ask me if I read anything about it.
And you said no.
As I said, I can't recall. The only communication I had at that stage was from Coach Ampilo, who's also Mr. Pistorius' personal coach and was also one of the team coaches of Team South Africa, who phoned me to inform me that there was an issue with one of the athletes and Mr. Pistorius, but it has been taken care of and sorted, as it was called, by the team management.
You took no further steps?
As far as I can recall, no.
Now, I'm going to send you across an article by Mr. David O'Sullivan. Ask you if you ever read this.
This specific article I have not read.
If not?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to then deal with certain aspects of this article to ask you if you know about this. Lady, seeing I'm referring to this, I'll hand this in. XXX2, lady. In paragraph 4, if you just number the paragraph yourself, it starts with, still I was aware this poster boy for the Paralympic Games could have flashes of a darker side. I'd experienced his anger shortly before the Beijing Paralympic Games. Oscar was at the pre-games training camp and phoned Mr. O'Sullivan, raging about what he perceived to be inadequate training kit. His fury at the South African management caught me by surprise. Oscar knew he couldn't be ignored, and his anger would ensure his demands were met. I hadn't expected Oscar to be a prima donna. Do you know anything about the accused unhappiness about this?
I was aware of the training kit being insufficient that was supplied to the Paralympic team at that stage.
And he was upset about it.
And that Mr. Pistorius was upset about it.
And so what did he do? You knew that he was upset.
I knew that he was upset.
So what happened?
But as far as I can recall, I wasn't at Beijing at the Paralympic Games. I also wasn't at the training camp. And just to clarify that once an athlete is part of Team South Africa, whether it be to a training camp or during a competition like the Olympics, Paralympics or Commonwealth Games, Team South Africa takes preference and they take over these athletes, then I have very little access to any of my athletes.
But you manage the athlete. You manage his profile. You manage his life as far as the athlete's concerned. If something like that happens, you get involved. Even if you have to mitigate a fallout, or don't you?
When, again, I stated, when an athlete is part of Team South Africa, I have very little access to any of my athletes. And Team South Africa's team management, team leader, their press officer, coaches, team coaches, they take care of any of these events. It's often a situation where I would get information secondhand then, after it's happened.
Okay. Then the next paragraph, paragraph 5, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but if you could follow where he said, second last line, he told me he had been forced to move out because Oscar was constantly screaming in anger at people on the phone. I thought he was joking and waited for a smile, but he was serious. So you never heard that he was constantly screaming in anger at people on the phone?
I never heard that. As per my answer yesterday, I received a phone call from Coach Ampilo informing me that there was an issue with one of the athletes and that team management will take care of this and they will sort it out. I didn't really take any further notice of this as I was really swamped with a lot of other requests and sponsorship engagements for Mr. Pistorius post-London. I can also add that subsequently to this, that there was a statement released by Mr. Arno Fourie, who is the athlete in question here, last night on his Twitter account.
Good, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because that brings me to two questions. Did anybody discuss your evidence with you since you left court yesterday?
Nobody has discussed any evidence with me, my lady. I received an email from some of my friends overseas who follows all these athletes, and they pointed out to me that this was on Mr. Arno Fourie's Twitter account.
But then you would also know that he never denied the fact that the calls were made. You mentioned it. You mentioned it, Mr. Van Zyl. You read it. He never denied the fact that
that's correct, my lady. Mr. Fourie did not deny that there wasn't calls made, but from what I could gather, as I said, I was informed that there was an incident between Mr. Pistorius and another athlete, and that it was taken care of by the team management.
But now we at your comeback. Your comeback was, I have to tell the court that there was a withdrawal of this last night. We're there. Let's deal with that. Nowhere in Mr. Arno Fourie's tweet of last night did he deny the fact that Oscar was on the phone screaming at people. Am I right?
That is correct.
Okay. Then will you be surprised if I say that the accused wrote a letter to Samantha Taylor wherein he said, I invited you to London because I knew that without me knowing you have had my heart in your hands for months and never once let it go. He said he invited her to London. Why would you not know that?
Because I was never informed of that as far as I can recall.
Did you not phone Samantha's mother to try and get them to London? Because that's also what I have. Think about it, please, Mr. Van Zyl.
I can honestly state that I cannot recall having to arrange for Ms. Taylor to go to the London Olympic Games.
You see, because the point you made is he's the first girl ever he's invited, and now I sit with a letter written by him, which shows the contrary. Let me show you. Malay, this behind it is XXX3.
Say 3.
3, my lady. Now, it's a long letter. It might become relevant and later with other witnesses. But let us just go to page 4, please. Will you follow? It's in the first paragraph. I'm not reading the whole paragraph. So I don't think that's necessary. It's line 8 from the top. Will you follow with me, please? That was not fair on you, as you have never given me a reason to mistrust you, and you have only been everything I could ever want. This is so hard to write because I don't deserve you, Sam. When I invited you, I was so excited to tell you because I knew we had some hard days behind us. I had asked Piet to do everything he could last week to find you a ticket. So that's not true. That Piet must be you.
It's me, but I can honestly not recall that I had to find or source or secure a ticket.
But let's unpack that. If he asked you to arrange a ticket for Samantha Taylor, you would have remembered. This must then be a lie that he wrote.
I cannot say if it's a lie that he wrote because, as I said, I cannot recall having to source or secure a ticket for Ms. Taylor to the Olympics.
Okay, let us just take one question at a time. If he asked you, you would have remembered.
Probably. I cannot recall.
Okay. Then, you just go to the next paragraph. The last 3 lines. Will you follow with me, please? I don't even feel like going to London now that you won't be there with me. I don't know how I let it go this far, but I'll never forgive myself for not looking after your heart that you place in my hands. So he's referring to, if he says, I don't feel like going to London, what is he referring to?
He must be referring to the London, either Olympic Games or Paralympic Games.
Yes. So, still you're saying that you never knew that he wanted her to go?
As I stated, as far as I can recall, I cannot recall that I was specifically asked to find or source or secure a ticket for Ms. Taylor to the Olympic Games.
I'm going to read. I don't want to go through. If one goes through this whole letter, it's significant. It indicates that, as far as he was concerned, he was in love with Samantha. You never knew that, or did you?
No, I knew. As I stated earlier, I knew that he was in love with Ms. Taylor because on the few occasions that I did meet the two together, it was to me a normal, loving relationship.
And when was the London Olympics?
August, as far as I can recall, 2012.
Okay, the last portion is then in the next paragraph. I'm going to read as it's here. Will you follow? It's the 4th last line. It took me a long time to be honest with myself and to truly fall in love with you, Sam. At least I know it wasn't forced. It wasn't a figure of my imagination. I invited you to London because I know that without me knowing you have had my heart in your hands for months and never once let it go. So, I mean, the regular references to this invitation, and you didn't know about it. Why would you not know about it?
As I said, I cannot recall.
Or it's just important for you to say that he invited one person and that was Riva. Because why would you not be able to recall this?
As I stated earlier, my lady, I cannot recall to an athletics competition that that Mr. Pistorius invited anybody else than Ms. Steenkamp. For instance, we also had Miss Jenna Atkins, which was one of Mr. Pistorius' previous girlfriends, where we had to arrange for her to join him, but that was for a photo shoot for a publication in Italy.
You're right. Just go to page 3. The last paragraph. I invited Jenna over last year for a week to Gemona, but after the night she went out with her friends, I cancelled the trip because I didn't want to be emotionally, well, it's venerable before world champs. So is that what you're referring to?
No, my lady. I think this must be Mr. Pistorius wanting to invite Miss Atkins to Gemona. Miss Atkins accompanied us to Milan for a specific trip where it was scheduled that Mr. Pistorius and his then girlfriend had to do a photo shoot for a fashion magazine.
So it happened, that trip?
That trip happened, yes.
And this one that Mr. Pistorius wrote about, the accused, you don't know anything about this?
No.
Now, just after the incident, you were able to visit the accused at the Brooklyn police station.
I saw Mr. Pistorius at the Brooklyn police cells on, as I can recall, I think the Sunday after the incident occurred.
Yes, on the 17th of February. It's the 17th of February. Take it from me. I'm not allowed to give you dates that's not so. Now, when you came out, there was a televised media statement by you.
That's correct.
You followed that up with a formal statement.
That's correct.
That you posted on a Facebook website.
I don't have a Facebook website, but either the publicist that we use must have then posted it on a Facebook website. I wasn't aware that it was on a Facebook website. As far as I can recall, the only places we did is we circulated to a media list and then also posted it on my own website, my business website.
Okay. Now, you also had a media interview with a radio station called Balls, B-A-L-L-Z.
That, as far as I can recall, is Mr. Darren Scott.
No, but you had an interview with that radio station. That's on correct. The 18th of February. That lasted about 10 minutes.
That's correct.
You can still recall what you said in your media releases and statements and during the radio interview?
I would have to be honest that I cannot recall everything that I've said, but basically it was relating to the sponsorship and endorsement deals that we had to either suspend, terminate, cancel, and also that all competitions that Mr. Pistorius was scheduled to compete in for 2013 I had to cancel.
You're right. But there were more. There were things like he received support on a global scale.
That is also correct. On his website, we would receive messages from all over the world, and we would then process that. I had someone specifically taking care of that for me.
And that you were there in your official as his manager and as his friend, and that you support Mr. Pistorius.
I was there in my capacity as his manager and also as his friend to give him my moral support for going through this traumatic period.
But you never once sent him there, sent the condolences to the Steenkamp family or anything like that in any of your media releases then?
I made mention, and in my personal and also business capacity, we had sent a bouquet of flowers to the Steenkamp family.
Is that all? But when the people asked you on international TV and in your official statement, you never said anything. But you want us to know, and we write it down, we send a bouquet of flowers. Is that all?
I am not quite following the question.
You had an opportunity to commiserate with the Steenkamp family, to send your condolences, but you didn't. Not on the 17th or the 18th.
Based on advice, I was informed not to make any contact with family. That's why we did not act out on anything.
No. I never asked you to make contact. I asked you as a person, as a friend of Rivas, that you were, that you want this court to believe. Why did you not do that?
I did not want to make the court believe, my lady, that I am a friend of Riva. I have met Ms. Riva Steenkamp on a few occasions and was introduced to me as Mr. Pistorius' girlfriend. I never became friends with any of Mr. Pistorius' previous girlfriends, only introduced and had a few occasions where I met them from time to time at social events where Mr. Pistorius had either sponsors obligations or things similar to that.
Okay, I'll move on to the next point. You related an incident in an airplane, the incident with the stewardess and the prosthesis. What point did you make there?
Basically, that Mr. Pistorius was uncomfortable with the fact that people had to see him without his legs in public, without his prosthetics in public.
If I tell you that it was also published that whilst on holiday, he left his prosthesis on a beach, and that was not a problem. See, I don't want to go there, but that's the point you made.
I can only testify to what I personally experienced with Mr. Pistorius in certain instances, and that was the instance where this leg was lying in the aisle of the plane, and he was very concerned that someone saw the leg and made sure that he covered the leg.
But you would then, if I show you a photograph on a holiday at a beach, you would just leave his prosthesis on the beach. Will you be surprised?
I will, because I've never seen that photograph.
You're welcome to. You want to tell me you've never seen that photograph? Did you not follow the media post this incident?
No, I did not. And I deliberately did not, because of the traumatic experience it was for me, where I was busy planning all these events for Ms. Steenkamp and Mr. Pistorius together in a matter of even hours before the incident happened. And I refer to the email that I sent that evening of the 13th of February. That was why I also never was following any media.
I find that interesting, that you're still the manager. You have to manage the fallout. You have to manage future contracts, future engagements. You have to, and you want to tell the court that you did not follow what's going on in the media.
My lady, I do not have any future contracts or anything of that sort to matter, as contracts have been terminated. So much so also that we had to sign documents of Mr. Pistorius having to pay monies back to some of his sponsors that he received.
I beg leave to hand that in XX form.
Thus, I don't stand to gain anything by being biased towards Mr. Pistorius in my testimony.
You see, I didn't want to, but I have to know everything you said. I have to look at. You said that the accused and Riva will call each other pet names. That's what you said.
In front of me, the few occasions that I did meet them, they did call each other pet names.
Do you know if they had a pet name for Samantha?
I cannot recall the pet name for Miss Taylor.
Have you heard Little Butterfly?
No, I have not heard that name called to Miss Taylor.
Cannot deny the fact that he called her his Little Butterfly.
I cannot deny the fact, but I have never heard him call that in front of me.
Now, if I put to you, and I don't want to, I can show you lots of other things that would indicate that Mr. Pistorius wanted a very serious relationship with Sam Taylor, said so on lots of occasions, that she's the one girl in the world for him. Why would you not know that that relationship was so strong between him and Sam Taylor?
Because I wasn't part of Mr. Pistorius' private life.
Can I ask you so? But also not with Reva.
Same with Ms. Steenkamp. As I said, I met them on various occasions.
So the relationship could have been the same then, as with Sam.
For me, in my opinion, the relationship that I had or the three persons that Mr. Pistorius has ever introduced me as his girlfriends, he was always loving with them, treated them kindly, affectionate towards them. So I would assume, and the fact that he had these relationships over extended periods of time showed to me that he was serious in these relationships.
Yeah. All three of them, so that would be Jenna, Sam Taylor, and Reva. It's the same thing as far as you're concerned.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's fine. As far as can I ask you, do you know of injury the accused sustained since the incident?
Mr. Nell, just take a seat. What is going on?
Your Worship, it's no,
Mr. Nell.
I was no surprised, my lady.
Mr. Nell, please take a seat.
Okay.
What is going on?
A device went off.
Pardon?
A device went off accidentally.
Okay. You know, you are an officer of court, aren't you?
Pardon?
Are you an officer of court? You're not?
My name says,
I see. Okay. So that's why Mr. Nell had to stand up. But, you know, when something like that happens, you just stand up and apologize immediately. You don't wait for the court to do a witch hunting.
I apologize.
Okay. Thank you.
And also from our side, it's an apology. I'm sure it went off by mistake.
It did, I'm sure of it.
My lady, so... do you know of an injury sustained by the accused in a motor vehicle accident?
No, I'm not aware of any injuries that Mr. Pistorius sustained in a motor vehicle accident.
He was involved in an incident where a car rolled. Now, it's since the incident to today.
Since after the 14th of February 2013? No, I'm not aware of
Do
it.
you know of any other incidents where a car rolled?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Nobody discussed with you?
No one discussed with me any vehicle accidents that Mr. Pistorius was involved.
Fine. You don't know of anything about a rally vehicle that Mr. Pistorius was in?
None whatsoever.
Right, I will carry on now. Another instance of aggressive behavior, I've been informed, happened when the accused was left out the final of the 4x4 meter relay, 4x400 meter relay. He was very upset about that, and he kicked chairs and things at a team meeting. Do you know anything about that?
I am aware of the fact that Mr. Pistorius was left out for the final for the 4x400 meter relay men at the World Championships in Daegu in South Korea 2011, and that he was unhappy. But again, as I said, I wasn't in any of those meetings. It was part of the Team South Africa meetings.
I know you weren't part of the meeting. I know you weren't there. But did you at least
I
heard about it?
I heard about it, but I wasn't aware that chairs was kicked. For instance, that
you heard about it from
team coaches, that Mr. Pistorius was unhappy for the fact that, and then I also met with him later that day when he informed me that he was not part of the team or the squad for the final for the relay.
Now, as far as you sitting where you're sitting is concerned, how did he express his anger?
He was actually more disheartened and almost in tears that he couldn't run in the final when I saw him.
But you weren't there when it happened.
I weren't there in the team meeting when it happened, so I don't know if he was aggressive or not aggressive. But when he informed me of the incident that he's left out of the squad, my lady, as I stated, he was almost in tears, crying for not being able to help to contribute to the South African team, where they have set a new South African record in the heats in the previous day.
It must be some drilling or something going on.
I hope it's only drilling.
Same here, my lady. I've convinced myself it must be drilling because something is happening.
Yes, I think one of the police officers went out to find out what's going on.
I think the registrar has some idea where. Okay. No, my lady, it's roadworks.
Okay. Oh, roadworks.
Yes.
Oh. I was hoping it was in the building so we could do something about it.
Yeah, we'll be able to do something.
Yeah.
Then lastly, No, I'm not going there. My lady, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Roo.
Thank you, my lady. Maybe just for completeness, you referred to the Twitter that you received.
That's correct, my lady.
Can you just identify it? I think it would be appropriate to follow the XXX numbers. The last one I think was XXX4. So if you could accept this as XXX5, my lady. It is just merely because there was reference to it.
Yes.
Can you just read it? Is this the Twitter that you refer to?
This is the Twitter I refer to, my
Just
lady.
read it.
It was posted on the 1st of July 2014, 23:59. Just to clarify, I approached our medical doctor at the London 2012 Paralympic Games to find out if the isolation room was available 2 nights before our 100-meter final. It was one of the most important races of my life, and I wanted to rest and recover well on my own time in preparation for the race. I cherish all the moments we shared at the London Games. Arno Fourie.
I have no further re-examination. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Mr. Fancier, thank you very much for your assistance. You may be excused.
Malady.
My lady, I made reference to a photo that we wanted to hand up as an exhibit. It is purely, my lady, to show a time of the arrival of the Netcare 911, the paramedics at the Silverwoods estate at the time of 3:41:50. I asked the court to accept that as exhibit YYY, my lady. If I may say, we do this because we will attempt in the heads of argument ultimately to, through objective evidence, to try and give you times when events took place, and we realized that we did not have the time of the, because none of the paramedics were called, the exact time of the arrival of the ambulance at 3:41 at the gate. Then, my lady, I spoke to Mr. Nell. I believe his attitude would be the same, but we undertook to come back to you as regards the reports ordered by you. I think in the first place, just for housekeeping, it should be numbered. The psychiatrist report should, the next exhibit number would then be for the psychiatrist report as exhibit ZZZ. I understand it was in fact numbered, my lady. My mistake.
Yes.
RRR.
It must have been because it's already filed.
Yes, my lady.
Yes.
So then the second part is, my lady, and I discussed this with Mr. Nell. We said that we would give you our attitude. The attitude of defense is this, that it's a report, and I refer now to both the reports, the psychiatrist report and the psychologist report. It's a report requested by the court. Therefore, it's before the court.
Yes.
We, of course, have a right to ask the court to have cross-examination. Of course, if we don't exercise that right, it's not to say that you agree with everything. At the end of the day, we will argue, and it's for what we want to rely on, and the court will take into account the report. The court will take into account if there was no cross-examination as a factor, and the court will take into account whatever is stated in the report in the context of other evidence. So what we're saying, we're not saying that we accept as the truth everything, but we say that's the report, that's before we, there's no need to call the witness. I would just, for completeness sake, my lady, read at page 29 the evaluation, just to put that before the court. That's page 29 of the psychologist's report. It's a report that was commissioned by you, requested by you by Professor J.G. Scholz, dated 27 June 2014, and the background is there and all the tests done are there. It may be dealt with, I believe, in argument ultimately. And then the evaluation is page 29, and it says the following. From my assessment of Mr. Pistorius and with the information currently at my disposal, I come to the following conclusions. 5.1. Mr. Pistorius has been severely traumatized by the events that took place on the 14th of February 2014. He currently suffers from a post-traumatic stress disorder and a major depressive disorder as defined by Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5 in brackets DSM-5. See Annexure C. The degree of anxiety and depression that is present is significant. He is also mourning the loss of Ms. Steenkamp. 5.2. Mr. Pistorius is being treated and should continue to receive clinical care by a psychiatrist and a clinical psychologist for his current condition. Should he not receive proper clinical care, his condition is likely to worsen and increase the risk for suicide, and then a reference to references. 5.3. no evidence could be found to indicate that Mr. Pistorius has the history of abnormal aggression or explosive violence. Abnormal aggression and violence was never incorporated into his personality, as borne out by both psychometric testing and collateral information. He does not display the personality characteristics of narcissism and or psychopathy that are mostly associated with men in abusive relationships and have been linked to rage-type murders in intimate relationships. Those who know him describe him as gentle, respectful, and conflict avoidant. The times when he did become angry were found to be suitable for the situation and context. His style of conflict resolution is to talk through the situation or remove himself from the situation. He also has the ability to self-reflect afterwards, mostly leading to feelings of guilt and an apology from him. His ability to regulate his effect is well developed. 5.4. There is evidence to indicate that Mr. Pistorius does have a history of feeling insecure and vulnerable, especially when he's without his prosthesis. He has also been exposed to crime directly and indirectly throughout his life. A reaction to a threatening situation comprises more than flight or fight. An appraisal takes place instantly, whereby the individual assesses firstly the intensity of the threat and then his position to cope with the threat. These appraisals are influenced by, amongst other things, previous experience. When Mr. Pistorius' appraisal of a situation is that he might be physically threatened, a fear response follows, which might seem extraordinary when viewed from the perspective of an able-bodied person, but normal in the context of a disabled person with his history. 5.5. No evidence could be found to indicate that Mr. Pistorius suffered from anxiety to the extent that it impaired his functioning prior to the incident in February 2014. He specifically does not meet criteria D for the DSM-5 for generalized anxiety disorder. Quote, the anxiety, worry, or physical symptoms cause clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. That's also referred to in Annexure C. If his context is taken into account, his function was superior prior to the incident in February 2014. For somebody of his age, his achievements in both his occupation and the social sphere were enormous. The successful intimate relationship he craved and his inability to rehabilitate his relationship with his father being the only areas where he achieved less success. 5.6. There is evidence to indicate that Mr. Pistorius was genuine with his feelings towards Mrs. Steenkamp and that they had a normal, loving relationship. He did become insecure and jealous at times, but this was normal for the specific situation. He would express his displeasure and irritation, but would try and sort it out later by talking with Ms. Steenkamp. Although the relationship was still young, there were no signs of abuse or coercion like those often found in these kinds of relationships, and then reference to previous works by experts. In his previous long-term relationship of 4 years, these aspects were also absent. And then the findings which were previously read into the record just as to his mental state. So the submission that we make, of course, there is no dispute about the mental state that is, with specific reference to section 78, that's on record. And then as regards to the report is before the court to be considered by the court, of course, in the context of all the evidence before the court. And there would be no cross-examination on behalf of the defense.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Mr. Neld, any addition?
May it please the court, my lady. We have a similar argument. The argument is, as indicated earlier, we accept the finding as far as the mental incapacity is concerned. Factual findings and what it's based on would be still open for argument. We also indicate that we're not asking the court to call the witness, but it's a court's witness, and that would always be an avenue open to the court to do. My lady, may I then do the same, though, with the other psychiatric report?
Yes.
Where we also did not read out
the full report, yes.
Report in more particularity. I will then start reading that. We hereby certify and report as follows regarding the mental condition of Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius, hereinafter called the accused, who is apparently 27 years old. The examination consisted of clinical interviews with the accused and observation of his general behavior. He was physically examined, special investigations, including blood tests, and that's a difficult yeah, that's very difficult. May I get some guidance from behind me how I should pronounce that word? Electroencephalogram, my lady. I don't apologize for not being able to do that.
Yes, can you repeat that, please?
Do you want me to repeat it, my lady?
Yes, please.
Electroencephalogram.
Thank you.
Please don't ask me to do it again.
Thank you.
The psychosocial report was compiled, psychometrics was done, and the psychological report was compiled. Documentation that was produced included case docket and official court proceedings report, a medical record from Mill Park Hospital about treatment received during 2009, psychiatric report by Professor M. Foster, report by Dr. R.G. Holmes. Then B, psychiatric diagnosis at the time of the alleged offence according to DSM-5, none. Currently, the accused presents with an adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depressed mood that developed after the alleged incident. This has no bearing on paragraph C. Paragraph C reads, at the time of the alleged offences, the accused did not suffer from a mental disorder or a mental defect that affected his ability to distinguish between the rightful and wrongful nature of his deeds. A mental disorder or mental defect did not affect his ability to act in accordance with the said appreciation of the rightful or wrongful nature of his deeds.
Thank you very much. That exhibit, can you just put it on record? What exhibit is that?
This was triple R, my lady.
It's triple.
And that is the
psychiatrist report.
Psychiatrist report. But
and the other report, the psychologist report, I don't believe we put that on record. What exhibit is that?
My lady, may I... Will the court grant me one moment just to confirm with?
Yes. Excuse me, I just want them to
I have a triple P for the psychiatrist report.
The psychiatrist...
And triple Q.
Hold on. The psychiatrist report is PPP.
PPP.
Thank you very much. And the psychologist report
is QQQ.
Thank you very much.
That's good, please.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Roux.
My lady, we have one witness left. We just have the witness is available. Maybe just have a 5-minute adjournment, no more.
We'll take a short adjournment.